So we've seen an event in action. We've added a subscriber to our event. Let's extend our subscriber class one more time to add a trigger for one more event. And then we'll actually go through the process of creating our own event in Drupal. Okay, so I'm going to jump back to the resource pack directory, and we're going to look at step 20, which is blinddatesubscriber.php, adding redirect to demonstrate hook init replacement. Now, the idea behind this code is that in Drupal 7, we would use hook init, a special hook that would run before a lot of other stuff, in order to do several things. We could add CSS and JavaScript globally by putting it in hook init, and we could also redirect based on certain properties. So if someone went to a particular page and they didn't have access to that page, we could send them to some other page specifically. So in this example, what we're going to do is show how to properly do a redirect in Drupal 8. And we're not going to be using hook init for that. So let's open up this file. I'm going to collapse this down. And let's compare this code with our current blind date subscriber code. So I'm going to copy this and do a file comparison with our clipboard. On the left-hand side, we have our original code, and on our right-hand side, we have the new code. We'll skip over these use statements for now. It seems like the process that I typically go through is I create the code and I pull in whatever classes that I need to, and then I discover through the process of using them where a use statement might be missing, and then I end up adding them in kind of afterwards. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down here to our Get Subscribed Events section. This is where it all starts. So we have our initial response event here, but now we've added one more event right here for the request. Now, if we want to, we can take a look at what exactly this request is. I'm going to click on this and I'm going to jump to the version that's inside of Drupal core. And let's see here. It says the request event occurs at the very beginning of request dispatching. So this event allows you to create a response for a request before any other code in the framework is executed. So this is exactly where we would want to do a redirect. So I'm going to jump back to the file comparison here. And so this is the event we're doing. And the method that we're going to run is check for redirect. And this whole green section here of code that we've added in is just this method here, check for redirect. Now for the parameters that get passed in, you can see that this has a type hint for get response event. So this is expecting a get response event type object. And the reason I knew to expect this is because I looked at other classes inside of Drupal that had registered a response for this request event. So it was just a matter of copying from one of those subscriber classes over to our subscriber classes and then updating the code a bit. So inside of this check for redirect, we're grabbing the route name, and we're doing so the same way that we did up here in the onResponse method. We're doing Drupal request get, although now we know to put attributes before this. And I'm going to scroll over and getting the route interface route name. So this is going to grab our route name for us. And if the route name is blinddate.page, which is the route that we've already defined inside of our module, then we're going to set a message that says, because the page you are about to access does not actually have much on it, we are directing you to something more useful. By doing this, we allow the user to know that we're redirecting them basically. And then from here, what we're doing is overriding the response object with a new response object that's a redirect response. So you may remember from Drupal 7 and Drupal 6 that you could use Drupal go-to in order to redirect to another page on Drupal. Well, in Drupal 8, you're now going to use redirect response instead. And what we're going to pass to it is a path. And because we want to go to the front page, we can grab the path by running front, which is a keyword that we could use in Drupal 7 to direct to the front page. And we can pass that through URL, which will convert it to a path, and then pass that path into redirect response. Finally, now that we have that response, we're going to reset the response object, because at this point, the response object is going to contain all of the stuff that we want to give to the browser, but now we want to override that and we want to create a redirect instead of sending all of that content down the pipes to the browser. So we'll override it with set response, and that's going to provide the redirect. Now, this looks kind of complicated in comparison with, for example, Drupal go-to, and it kind of is, but once you understand the steps involved here and why we're going through these steps, it starts to make sense because this actually works better for more various use cases. Chances are the first time that you use this, you're going to just copy and paste. Let's actually look for some other examples of this happening inside of the Drupal codebase so you can see. So I'm going to copy redirect response along with this parenthesis here, and then I'm going to do a search across the entire code base. So here we can see an example in batch.inc. Over here, it's return new redirect response URL front, very similar to what we're doing here, except this one also sets it to be absolute, which is one of the attributes we can pass into the URL function. And if we scroll down, we can see several other examples: redirect response, this, generate URL _ demo, and so on. So again, the first couple of times that you do this, it will probably be copying and pasting, but as soon as it starts to stick in your long-term memory, you'll be able to do this from scratch. Okay, I'm going to go back to the file comparison here. So the one other change that we're adding here is that we're commenting out this set status code to 404, because that actually gets in the way of doing this redirect. Okay, I'm going to close out this comparison, and I'm going to copy the code in this 20th step and paste it over the code in blind date subscriber and save it. Now let's give it a shot. I'm going to go back to the browser and let's go to blind date. And what we're going to expect would happen is that we would get redirected to the home page to our site, and we would get a message across the top saying, hey, you've been redirected. So let's go here. All right, it says, because the page you are about to access does not actually have much on it, we are redirecting you to something more useful. Cool.